Good evening and welcome. It's Friday, it's 8 o'clock, and that means it's time for Buster's Virtual Jazz Club. That's right, we are streaming live on the internet, live to infinity and beyond, and everyone out on YouTube. Unless, of course, you're watching the rerun on the recording, in which case we're not. So we hope you've had a good week. We've got a lovely show lined up tonight, some beautiful music, so I'm very excited to bring this to you. But before we get started, I'd just like to say a big thank you to all my regular patrons who subscribe to my Patreon page, and also to everyone who makes a donation on PayPal, and also now on Visa. We can accept one-off Visa payments. It means an awful lot and has been a massive help this year, and still a big help as well. And thank you for the lovely messages that I get as well. I'm sorry I don't reply to them all, but I don't know how to do that on the PayPal thing. But do visit the website. The link is below, and down there you can see how to make donations and check out who's coming up on my upcoming guests. And you can watch all of the past shows. I think we're on to show number 35 now. And finally, I've got some good news. I've hit 4,000 hours of view time on my YouTube channel, which is quite a significant milestone, because now all I have to do is increase my subscribers and I'll be able to monetize my YouTube channel. Not this show, but my other videos that I run, which are music tuition videos. So please do click the subscribe button, which I think is on that side or that side, and that will really help me out. So on to tonight's show. My guest this evening was born in Seattle on the west coast of America. Her beautifully crafted melodic lines evoke the spirit of Paul Desmond and Art Pepper, with whom she has a particular affinity. As a strong advocate of the melodic West Coast jazz style, she's widely regarded as one of the finest exponents on today's scene. In her early years, she performed alongside leading international artists such as Ellington vocalist Adelaide Hall and altoist Bud Shank, and was featured as a member of the John Dankworth Generations Band and the Back to Basie Orchestra. Her 10-year association with the great UK bebop guitarist Dave Cliff, who was my guest on show number 10, so do go and check that out, was a special and influential musical partnership and led to a critically acclaimed debut recording, Melody Express, which we're going to hear some of tonight, which featured in the Guardian jazz critic Dave Kelly's top 10 jazz records of the year. This was followed by a second CD featuring Netherlands-based trumpeter Gary Kavanagh, celebrating the compositions of Gigi Grice, both released on 33 records. Her third album, I Wished on the Moon, in 2015 for Trio Records, also featured up-and-coming Milt Jackson-influenced vibraphonist Nat Steele, who we're going to hear from tonight as well, and hard bop pianist Leon Greening. More recently, she has worked alongside Nat Steele in their quintet project Neale Meets Steele. I love that. And also as co-creators of the Bebop Jazz Festival, which we're going to hear about tonight, running alongside the London Jazz Festival, and now in its fourth successful year, exclusively highlighting the vibrant UK bebop straight ahead scene, of which both are part, and building connections with fellow artists on the current New York scene, including tenorist Grant Stewart and pianist Michael Weiss. Her most recent CD, Quietly There, which we're going to hear some of tonight, features internationally renowned New York guitarist Peter Bernstein, along with legendary UK jazz bassist Dave Green and acclaimed drummer Steve Brown. She's toured the UK with her own quartet, which features Alex Bryson on piano, Jerry Brown on bass, and drummer Matt Fishwick, and also with her project alongside Chris Biscoe, Two of a Mind, which we're going to hear some of as well, in which they celebrate their own take on pianoless recordings of Jerry Mulligan and Paul Desmond, which they've got an album out as well. Anyway, she's here now, so I'm pleased to welcome her on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please say hello to the very wonderful Allison Neale. Hi Alison, how are you doing?
Hi Buster, I'm doing really well, thank you. Thanks. For having me.
Oh, it's great. Thank you for coming on the show and giving up your evening and sharing your music with us. It's absolutely beautiful, and I've always admired your playing. I think you've got a fantastic thing going on and great sound, and you always produce these wonderful albums. So it's great to have you on the show. I usually start by asking how you've been this very strange year and a bit, or whatever we've been doing, and so what have you been able to keep yourself busy, occupied, earning some money, or And did you lose any projects? I know you've got this new album out, so we're going to talk about that. But I think did you have a tour lined up for it or something just before everything kind of went into lockdown?
Well, we didn't have an actual tour planned, but we were going to put something together. I mean, it was in the pipeline. Obviously, with Peter being in New York, it's pretty impossible at the moment. So
yeah,
any plans for that have had to go on hold, unfortunately.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I've been keeping myself busy. I'm doing quite a bit of teaching, I think, as a lot of musicians have that we know, and sort of hanging in there, thinking about music a lot.
Yeah, so embracing the Zoom online teaching, you've been able to keep going through that, like many of us, yeah. And it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Sometimes, I mean, a few people said it's in some ways it's been nice is not the right word, but like an opportunity to take a pause and sort of reflect on things you're doing and think about what you're going to do next and all the rest of it. And I guess, like a lot of us, we take a lot of things for granted, don't we? And sometimes it's just to realise how much you do miss it when it's not there, isn't it? It's quite a special thing we do, isn't it? That connection of playing with people and travelling. I know you do a lot of touring of the UK as well. Well, not at the moment, but you did. So travelling up and down the country, we make these connections with people all over the place, don't we?
Yeah, I think it's just missing the camaraderie of your fellow musicians and also playing to a live audience. I mean, there's nothing that really can replicate that. Even live streams, I mean, they're very, very much second best, in my opinion, to doing the real thing. So the sooner that comes back for everybody, the better, I think. For
Yes.
everybody, the audience and everyone who loves music.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a few green shoots showing through at the moment. There's a few things starting to creep into the diary, and so we're kind of limping back to that at the moment. So I want to talk. We're going to play a couple of tracks from your latest CD, which you released last year in September, in the middle of this pandemic, which is an amazing effort. But I understand. So had you already recorded the sessions before, and it was just
we recorded a while back, actually, and
right.
I've been sitting on it a little while, and because it's really an international project. It's a band. I mean, it's really something that I wouldn't be gigging on a regular basis, so it's really more of an artistic project, that record. And I thought, well, what better time to release it but during the pandemic, really, because it's just a real artistic culmination of my playing and what I've been doing in the past few years. So I think it wasn't so much as a band to tour, but a chance to record with one of the great guitarists on the scene in the world today. I mean, it was
absolutely, yeah. And of course, some of the listeners may not realise, but of course he's worked with everyone, hasn't he, in New York current and some of the real great players. And so how did you get to meet Peter then? What was the connection there? How did that come through?
I met Peter a couple of years ago, or a good few years ago, in New York, actually, and the connection really is that, I mean, he very much was a follower of Jim Hall, and I'm a huge fan of Jim Hall's playing. And I think it was just sort of wanted to ask Peter to do the record as almost a reimagining of that partnership that Paul Desmond had with some guitarists like Jim Hall, just to reimagine that whole idea in the present way. So really something that, although I'm influenced very much by Paul Desmond, I and players like that, I think I just wanted to bring my own feeling to that music. And also Peter, although he's got some influence from Jim Hall, he's quite a unique sort of jazz artist with his own very strong voice on the scene today. And I think it was just a great opportunity to ask him to record, and he was really keen to do it. So yeah,
wonderful. And you've got that, and you've got the incredible kind of duo of Dave Green and Steve Brown on the bass and drums, who they just fit like they go hand in glove, don't they? And they've obviously, as we know, worked together so much on so many things. And I think that's a perfect backing for your for your style of playing and your sound, and also I think the way you get to play with Peter much before you recorded, because you fit together so well on that.
No,
that's amazing.
Met and well, we met already, but obviously we'd not played together. No, we recorded it on one day in the studio. I had a strong concept of what I wanted to do, and talked to Peter about it, and we just went in, recorded in quite a short space of time. Actually, we did it all in a 6-hour stretch.
Gosh.
Just one, we didn't do too many repairs. I don't think we did any, actually. It was just what you hear is what we did.
Is it? Oh, it's incredible. Yeah. And where was the studio? It was a lovely sound you got on the album as well.
Yeah, it was recorded at Angel Studios, which unfortunately now has closed, but it was very famous studios. And a beautiful room that we recorded in. So yeah, it was a very special recording.
It's the big church, wasn't it? Like a big.
Yes, and it's a pipe organ at the end of the room. So it's
a big, high, open space, and you get this lovely. Yeah, that's a big part of the sound, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. Oh, and
well, look. Sorry.
Sorry, just to mention that, of course, Dave Green also recorded with. No, he performed with Peter and Jim Hall. So they already knew each other, and they played together before.
I think Dave's played with everyone, hasn't he? Literally, just there isn't anyone he hasn't played with. He's amazing, yeah.
But it was a nice connection as well, and Dave, obviously, one of our great musicians to ever come out.
Well, I was hoping to get him on the show, but he's a very self-deprecating man, isn't he? So he's not so keen talking about himself. He said so. So we'll but he has featured many times on many records on this show. So, but I just think that's amazing, because obviously you've got and yourself included, an incredible high standard of artistic, musician playing, wonderful, world-class playing, but it doesn't always mean it's going to come out great, is it? But the fact that you just all connect. Obviously, you've worked with Dave and Steve a lot, but that I didn't realise that's incredible. Yeah. Well, look, let's play a bit. So you've picked some tracks for us, and the first track is Midnight Sun, which is a Lionel Hampton standard. Are they all standards on the album?
Yeah, I'm very much a believer in playing on the standards, I'm afraid.
Don't be afraid. I think that's lovely. Yeah. Well,
there's great songs to be explored out there. So.
Of course, yeah. Well, look, let's have a listen to this, and we'll come back off the back of this. So this is Midnight Sun, and from the album Quietly There, which was released just in September on the Ubuntu label. Is that right?
Ubuntu label. Yeah.
Ubuntu label, and it features Peter Bernstein on the guitar, my guest Allison Neale on the alto saxophone, Dave Green on the bass, and Steve Brown on the drums. And how about that? What a beautiful sound. What a beautiful record. And that was my guest, Allison Neale, on the alto saxophone there. Amazing. Amazing, Alison. Wonderful. And there's a lot of nice comments there as well. So we've got a few people in the chat box. Nice to see you guys. Peter Gore's here. Paul Dinage. And Steve Clark is drinking his Glenlivet single malt, which only appears in double measures. Brian's here from France. Hi, Brian. He's on the Bushmills. Oh, very nice. And nice comments there. Yes, we're getting a few gigs creeping back. Hi, Dave Griffiths in the house. Hello, mate. And Paul wonders if Alison could be a future guest at Alpington. I don't see why not. That would be lovely. Yeah, and you must come down and play Alison with us sometime soon. That'd be lovely. So I mean, it's an incredible accomplishment. It's a wonderful album we've got that you've put out, and you were just enjoying that's you were saying about this. It's the studio's closed, and you had a great engineer there who's sadly no longer with us as well. And it's a real kind of statement this you've got of this album, isn't it? It's absolutely. Really, and people don't realise sometimes the work that goes into these, do they? I mean, we say, "Oh, I just turned up and played," but I mean, it's not as simple as that, is it?
No, it never is. No, no, it's quite a lot of preparation involved.
And Peter Bernstein there on the guitar. People will may recognise him from his Larry Golding's trio, of course, with Bill Stewart. I've seen them a few times, absolutely wonderful. But of course, he's played with everyone, hasn't he, in New York? So we do hope you get a chance to play and get some gigs together.
Yeah.
Well, I like this album so much. We're going to play another track from it. So I think we just jump straight back in there. Should we do that? Should we play there's a beautiful ballad you recorded, didn't you?
I did. It's a lovely tune by Jimmy Dorsey called "I'm Glad There Is You."
And was there any particular reason this repertoire? How did you get the tracks together? Was it just presumably it was all pre-planned. You don't just literally turn up and say what we're going to play. But you've worked on a set list together over. Is it a kind of common thing, or you tell them what you want to play and they play it, or is it kind of more mutual?
Yeah, we pretty much work well. I had a concept of the tunes that I wanted to do. I always try and have a good, strong concept every time I make a record.
Yeah.
In my head, and decide which standards or tunes that I want to record, and think about the setting and the people involved and how that marries together. So I recorded the tunes that I wanted to record at that time and with the people that I was recording with, and chose them accordingly, really. So this is a tune that I absolutely love. I played it on gigs and it was just a beautiful. I'm very much a fan of the ballad. Playing ballads, I just think it's one of the greatest things a jazz artist can aspire to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
It really is a mark of a player if you can be a great ballad player, and all that my heroes were great ballad players. So I think it's always really important to choose your ballad wisely when you record an album.
Very wise words, absolutely, yeah. And if anybody wants to get this album, is there links on? I've put your Alison's website is in the description below, so if you want to check that out, folks. And presumably there's links there, is there, of where they can purchase your records?
It's pretty widely available, and it's also available for download as well, from the Ubuntu label website, and also Amazon and all the usual places. So
good stockists, as they say.
Good stockists, yes.
Well, look, let's play another track. Let's hear this beautiful ballad. It's called I'm Glad There Is You, from the same album. The album's called Quietly There. That's right, isn't it? Quietly There is the album. Isn't that absolutely marvellous? Well, it's incredible, Alison. Beautiful playing, absolutely beautiful. And a wonderful recording. So, folks, there we go. That's the album is Quietly There. So do check that out, and available at all good stockists. We'll put the link below, and you can check it out from Alison's website. There we go. You've just sold one. Thank you, Brian Way. He's just ordered one.
Oh, wow.
Melody Express seems a bit harder to come by, though. Well, we're just going to come on to that, Brian, actually, because, yeah, we were talking about that before, weren't we, Alison? So, Alison, what I normally do then is ask people, basically how you got started. Were there any particular moments? Was there like an album you suddenly heard and go, oh, that's what I want to do? Or was there a person or somebody or a sort of, or an incident, dare I say, that kind of made you decide to want to be a jazz musician? Because it's a funny thing to do, isn't it? And perhaps you could also mention a little bit about I know we studied together, didn't we, at the Guildhall? So perhaps we could talk a little bit about that as well. So how did you get going into on all this? Are you from I know your brother's a musician as well. I was at college with.
Guitarist, that's right.
Great guitarist. Goldsmiths, yeah, with your brother. I think he was there in my last year, and he was the first year, so I'm a little bit behind. But yeah, I do remember Chad. Yeah, yes. But so you obviously and your brother. But were your parents musical? Are you are the musicians in the family?
Not professional, no. I mean, my dad is my dad really. I mean, he's a big jazz fan, and both my brother and I grew up listening to his records, and Richard's playing guitar and listening to the jazz guitarists. Although he didn't eventually go into the jazz scene in the way that I did, but I sort of listened to all my dad's records. He's very much into the West Coast sound. So I guess I just picked that up, and I loved it. I played flute when I was little as well, and I played along with my dad's records.
So you started on flute, did you?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
And got into was listening to Frank West, players like that. Bobby Jasper, I loved, and all James Moody. And then started listening quite extensively to Stan Getz. My dad's a massive Stan Getz fan. Right. So I pretty much listened to all Stan's records. Dad's got maybe 50, 60 Stan Getz records.
Fantastic. So what sort of age was this then, roughly?
Oh, yeah, quite young. I mean, sort of probably not much older than 10, 11. Well, I was listening.
That is quite early. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Surprisingly, yeah. And then just got into it. And then we used to play records in the evening together, me and my dad. And as I got older and I started to get more proficient on my instrument and started to sort of really explore it on my own in a way after that, just sort of playing along with records. I also really love jazz guitar as well. I absolutely worship Wes Montgomery and players like the great piano players like Hank Jones. I just sort of was bowled over by that kind of amazing quality of musicianship, and I just was captured by it.
It's very interesting this, because I think particularly with jazz, there's a thing about the recordings, isn't there? Like hearing the records and that thing of first sort of jamming with the records and then doing this kind of study after that. I think that initial connection with the music is really, it goes very deep, doesn't it? And I think whereas perhaps more people that take a more traditional, dare I say, classical route, without knocking it or anything, it's just a different process. People tend to have gone down the taking exams at schools, playing in a school band kind of route, which is great and it's good fun. But I think with a lot of jazz musicians, their first connection tends to be from records. I think that, and I don't know, maybe, I mean, obviously I'm generalising here, but I think there's something about that. And then kind of figuring it out a little bit after. And I think there's something precious about that time that's very, I think it's just very interesting, that kind of, that experience, doing it in that order, I think has some kind of quite a strong effect. I don't know.
I totally agree. I mean, I think I kind of knew what I was, the sound I was attracted to and what I wanted to eventually sound like, sort of subconsciously from quite an early age. I mean, I never said, it's funny because I often get likened to players like obviously Paul Desmond and Art Pepper, and I listened a lot to those players. I never really intentionally set out to sound specifically like anyone. I just think that all of those influences just come into your playing.
Yeah, you have a sound in your head, don't you, of what a sound is, and that you're reaching for, and without it necessarily having to be a particular person. It's not a question of copying, is it? It's just that's how you hear it, and
exactly, yes. Yeah. It's elements of all of that music that I listened to when I was young.
Very interesting. Yeah, because you have this, beautifully clean, cool school kind of thing, but it's like, it's not a study. You've not sat down and tried to sound like that. And I think that's why it works. That's why it sounds so beautiful when you play, because it's a natural thing, isn't it? It doesn't sound, you don't really sound like any one of them. You can hear some influences, but it's a little bit of everything, but it's not just that, it's the whole mix of it. Yeah. Interesting. So was this at this point you were still in Seattle, were you?
Oh no.
When did
I came back very young, so
right.
I was only about 1 when I returned.
Oh, okay.
Came back from Seattle,
Right. Yeah. And then, of course, so then after school is college, and then the Guildhall. So the postgraduate jazz diploma where we met.
We did, yeah.
A while ago now, wasn't it?
No, I don't.
No. And I remember hearing you then and thinking, wow, that sounds great, beautiful, and you had the fully formed sound then already. You already were very much, you had all this together way back then already. I think that was quite remarkable. And we're going to play a bit of your first recording now, and I think it's quite interesting to hear that you were doing all this then. Like you had it was almost like you'd had a fully found sound. So at college, how did you find that? What was that kind of experience for you? Because you obviously had a very clear vision of what you wanted to do, and I mean, it was a lot of fun, wasn't it? When we all kind of learn a lot and practiced a lot. And
yeah, I think it was the best thing was just meeting other players, like
yeah,
yourself, other musicians. I think that was the thing for me. I think at that point I already knew I'm quite stubborn, and I already had a very strong idea of what I wanted to play like and what I wanted to do, and I wasn't going to be swayed in any way by anyone, I think. So
well, that's clearly a strength. I mean, I remember just being completely overwhelmed the whole time and feeling like I don't know what I was trying to do, and I'm going around in complete circles and trying to do everything and just like spinning my wheels, basically.
I think it can have that effect on you, can't it, when you're in that situation?
Yeah. No, it takes. I think that's very commendable that you have that's clear artistic. Because you did Nijo for a while as well, didn't you? I think. Am I right?
And even there, I wasn't going to be swayed with.
But it's all good training, isn't it? I mean, it's incredible experience to play to go through this process of learning and studying and.
Well, as a horn player, it's important to be able to play in that big band situation as well. I mean, it's a very specific skill, and of course, in jazz history, all the great players have had that opportunity.
Good point. Yeah.
Band and,
yeah, that's a good point, because all the great jazz artists, we know them as one thing, but they were always doing loads of other stuff as well at the time, partly because there was so much work about as well.
Kenton Band, and a lot of the West Coast players played in that, including Art and Stan and those guys. So yeah, it's a proper it's a training ground for that kind of playing, which is important as a horn player as well.
Well, you got to put the time in, haven't you, and all the rest of it, and learn the craft of it as well. Well, look, let's talk a bit about. There's somebody that was quite influential to you. You had a long kind of fruitful musical partnership with, which was Dave Cliff, of course. The wonderful Dave Cliff, the legendary Dave Cliff, who's been my guest on the show, folks. If you want to check out more about Dave Cliff, check out, I think it's show number 10. You can see them all, the whole lot. It's all on my website. You can watch the whole show. And Dave, of course, was one of the professors at the conservatoire there. Did you know Dave before Guildhall, or was that when you met Dave?
Yeah, well, I didn't actually meet him at Guildhall, but I think my dad had a couple of his records even.
Right.
I just thought, wow, that just sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And so, and I think I met Dave on a couple of gigs, and we kind of, the thing about Dave is he's got, his concept is in a sort of way, it's quite similar to mine. I mean, he's got a very kind of, his working on that melodic line, it's just so natural. I mean, it's quite incredible. He's probably one of the only musicians I've ever met who has that incredibly clear conceptual musical line in his playing. I mean, it's sort of, it is legendary. It is kind of world class.
Yeah.
In such an understated way. I think people don't even realise.
It's not flash enough for people to really appreciate the quality of it. What he's doing, isn't it? I think
he's
perhaps.
Totally cleared by people in the know, But he's. I would say he's one of the great jazz guitarists of our time. I mean, the fact that he's British is the same, really, because probably if he'd been American, he probably wouldn't have had a greater acknowledgement. But no, he is truly one of the greats. And of course, he recorded with Warren Marsh and Bonitz in the 70s, and so he's one of the.
And so you had your quartet, and Dave was in that. Was it a quartet?
Yeah, quartet. Yeah, we worked together for about 10 years. And
and you did a lot of plans. You had a lot of touring, a lot of up and down the country. But and you produced this. So this was we're going to hear from your first album now, which featured Dave, and this was from 2002. We've got.
Amazing,
And it's Dave Cliff on guitar, Simon Thorpe on the bass, and Matt Skelton on the drums. So great rhythm section there. And do you remember particularly anything about this session? Was it how did you feel going into the studio for the first time? Was it like, right, I've got this great band, I'm ready to do this, or was it just like terrifying and thinking, oh no, or was it just you just felt like you wanted to get these tracks down?
We did. I think we did it over 2 days.
Oh, okay.
It was actually really relaxed because we'd actually played together as a group.
Right.
Quite a while before that. So it was sort of, we recorded the repertoire that we were playing at the time.
Okay.
It sort of totally made sense, really.
Well, that's the right way round. That's how they used to do it. The trouble is nowadays, of course, you want to get a gig, you have a CD. So quite often bands end up doing the recording first, so they've got something to that, then they can get the gigs, and so everything's a bit kind of arse about face now. Quite often, you know, you know, when you're starting out, unless you've got these long-established musical relationships already, that do that. So, oh, that's good then. That's interesting. Yeah. So you felt like it was already a working band, so that takes a bit of the pressure off, doesn't it?
And also, when you record with somebody like Dave, I mean, Dave is really a first take wonder. I mean, he's so consistent that you learn a lot by recording with somebody like that, because there's no time for kind of being fussy about it. You just literally have to get on with it and do it. So if you don't get it in the first or second take, then forget it.
Yeah, there's a discipline there, isn't there? Yeah,
it's a great lesson to learn, and you know, after you've recorded, it's always a learning curve, isn't it? And we don't get to do it enough. It's actually
right. Well, that's what I was just going to say. It's like you have to have that experience, don't you, to kind of get over yourself, like a bit, like when you, especially with, I think, the jazz albums, and it's gonna come out how it comes out. So and so, you know, you prepare, don't you, for the session, and if you're doing, you know, you put your homework in, but then there's a certain acceptance you have to have, and I think that's what I think I like about jazz as well. It's that thing. It's like, well, this is it. That's going down. That's what we did. You know. Yes. There's a sort of honesty to it, isn't it?
Yeah, as Stan Getz said, it's a snapshot in time, which is very astute when you think about it, because it's sort of it is literally that, and you have to kind of acknowledge that and go with it. You can't be too precious about it.
Yeah, of course. So, great. Well, let's hear this. So this is the title track from the album. It's called Melody Express, which is a Gigi Grice track. And so this is on 33 Records, if people want to check this out. And did you say is there any left, or was it a limited? Have they all kind of gone? It was one of these.
I think there may be. Yeah, you'd probably be able to track one down somehow. But
somehow, there you go. I think we call that a collector's item, Alison.
It did get pressed twice, but
it got pressed twice. Oh, good. That's good.
It did, yeah, so you should be able to get a copy if you look hard enough. Yes.
Fantastic. Here we go. you're enjoying the show. I just want to take a moment to tell you about a new way that you can help support me do this, and that is through patreon.com. That's right, I've got an account now, so the link's below here, patreon.com Buster Birch, and if you go along to there, you can now make donations by Visa credit card, so you don't have to use PayPal if you don't want to do that. And the advantage of Patreon is that once you do it once, it will automatically deduct on a per show basis. So instead of having to fill in the forms every week, if you want to make a regular donation, then that will just automatically deduct straight to your credit card each per show. And that is hugely helpful to me, because it means I know that I've got a certain amount coming in every time I do a show, and that really helps me plan ahead and keeps the viable sustainability of the show going. There's 2 levels of sponsorship. There's my silver and gold membership. All of my Patreon supporters will get a big thank you personally from me live on the show, and the gold member sponsors will get an additional Spotify playlist which will be sent to you each week. It's something that I'm putting together. It's personally curated by me and will feature lots more albums by the guest artists each week. So it's a great opportunity to get to know this music much better. If you're really enjoying the show and you like the little tasters that you're hearing, that's a great way to get to know this music even more and enjoy in full comfort the full sound of the full albums. Thanks very much. Back to the show. That's right, back to the show. We're live on YouTube with my guest Allison Neale, and that was a track from her first album 20 years ago. And as I said before, you're absolutely sounding great way back then as well, Alison. Wonderful playing, and featuring Dave Cliff, the wonderful guitarist, who also features. You just heard there. That's Dave on my on my theme tune, which is from a record that we recorded with Joe Fuchs with the quintet with Dave as well. So that my listeners and viewers will be very familiar with Dave, even if they don't know it. A few nice comments in the chat box there. So Paul Dinage says he loves this album. Melody Express, that's what we just played. He says it's they've still got a few copies on the website, 33 Records website. There we go. And John Ash is here. He says hello. He's seen Alison a few times in Croydon, and he really enjoyed it. And Mary Proudlock's here. Hello, Mary. I hope you're well. So, yeah, lovely music, Alison, and thanks for sharing it with us. So then, so you had that group with Dave for quite some time, and you did a lot of recordings, but you've got a couple of other projects that you've been doing recently as well over the last few years, and I thought we'd just perhaps touch on some of that. Somebody who you work with, you've got a project with Nat Steele, who's a very talented fellow, isn't he? He plays vibraphone and drums, and does he play piano as well?
No, just vibes.
Just vibes and drums. Yeah, but he's he's a great musician, great player. And you've got this project, Neil Meets Steele. I love that. I love anything like that. That really tickles me. So yeah. And so you've got this group, and you made this record, which was 2015. I Wished on the Moon, and we've got a track we're going to play here. And so, how do you find playing with vibraphone? Is that like a different sort of experience with you? And also this, because there's no piano here, right? So this is vibes, bass, and drums. Is that right?
No, actually there is piano.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Leon Greening's on piano.
Oh, of course, I've got that written down there. Of course, the great Leon Greening. He's fantastic, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it was a sort of half quartet, half quintet, this record, and that
right.
Gets in about 5 tunes, so about half of the record.
Oh, of course, right. So, and that's Julian Berry on the bass, lovely bass player, lovely fella. I like playing with Julian, and again Steve Brown on the drums, wonderful drummer. And so you've got this group, and the idea of this band is you've got these really great bop players, haven't you? And so there's a kind of pool of musicians that you've been kind of working with over the few years, and so you decided to get together and put on a festival, as you do.
Yes, yeah. Well, I think Nat and I, we sort of really hit it off. I mean, I'm a big Milt Jackson fan. I'm kind of obsessed with him. I listened again. My dad
He's lovely.
Jackson record, so
that's what got me started. Milt Jackson. My dad had Milt Jackson records. That was what. In fact, my dad is now learning the vibraphone. He's had them for years. Yeah, And he's so I hope you're practicing, Dad, while you're watching this. And Milt Jackson, it's the sound of the vibes, isn't it? I mean, like, that's, if you play vibes, that's kind of what you want to sound like, don't you? I'm probably upsetting all the vibraphone players now, but it's a classic kind of swing, blue note, hard bop sort of sound, isn't it? Bebop sound.
And I think that's just, I really love that side of playing. I know I come from a more West Coast background, but I love all that playing, and it's just a great opportunity to sort of make a record with some of my favourite players in that kind of style. We're all great friends and have known each other for years as well, so there's that element to it. And Nat and I just got we really hit it off, and so we decided the time is right to really put on a festival. I think we felt like the London Jazz Festival didn't really represent players, very sort of particular kind of pop scene that we were within, and we thought, well, let's redress the balance and try and put a festival on. So we developed Bopfest, and we put it on the first year, and it actually was really successful. Because I guess it says what it does does what it says on the tin, and people know what they're getting. So we sort of featured all our favourite musicians and over a series of about 5 nights, I think, the first time, and it was very successful. So we sort of ran it a second year and expanded a bit, and then we had a year off, and then the next year we ran it. We started to develop a little bit of ties with friends from New York, and we brought our friend Grant Stewart over to do some gigs for us, and that was great. Wonderful. So we sort of had a taste of putting on a kind of larger festival, really. And then we've also had friends from Europe, wonderful pianist called Klaus Reibel, who is very much influenced by Bud Powell, and various musicians from also the Luigi and Pasquale Grasso, who great bebop altoist and guitarist who studied under Barry Harris. So we're sort of bringing together a few different players from overseas as well to feature in the festival, and developing friendships and connections that way. And it's been very successful, but it's a lot of work. It's a year's worth of work for both Nat and I, but I think it's been worth it, definitely. So obviously we're taking a break during the pandemic, but we'll hopefully be back, not this year, but next year.
Well, we wish you well. Everybody will go out and see. I've got a little bit of echo coming out now on the mic. I don't know where that's coming from, but let's put this track on, and hopefully we can sort that out. And we'll come back off the back of this and talk some more about that. So this is 317 East 32nd Street. Is that a significant address? This is a Lenny Tristano tune, isn't it? Is that where he used to live?
It's possibly one where he used to live, or where a girlfriend lived, or something like that.
Somebody lived there.
Yeah, someone lived there. Yes.
Here we go. Wonderful. How swinging was that? What a wonderful sound there. Yeah. And lovely to hear those vibes. Yeah. Nat Steele on the vibes. In that very much in that Milt Jackson kind of school of vibraphone playing, which is beautiful. And Leon Greening there on the piano, a beautiful piano solo there. Julian Berry and Steve Brown, and my guest Allison Neale. So yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted running a jazz festival, is it? I mean, I know it's like trying to run one gig a month, and to put on a whole series and flying people over from New York. I take my hat off to you. That's a real achievement to do that, and still be able to do it again. You know, not go completely bankrupt. And so you've done about 4 years, and well, we hope hopefully all the best for when you return. So do you think you might do it this year or probably next year? Is it?
No, we're going to give it a miss this year and come blazing in 2022, I think.
Good.
Think ahead for that. Yeah, plan ahead.
Well, because you have to plan so far ahead, don't you? And we can't plan anything at the moment, really, can we? Certainly not things like that.
Yeah, still.
So for a November jazz festival, we were just saying you're probably fixing things up in January, February, are you? You saying yeah. I don't think people realise how far ahead these things need to be booked. So that's it's understandable that that's not really viable this year. But well, we wish you well with that. And so folks, do check that out. It's called Bopfest, is it? That's Bopfest. Yeah. Great, fantastic. Yeah. So well, the old time's marching on, and we got a couple more tracks. There's another project that you've got with a wonderful musician, Chris Biscoe, who's been on the scene for a long time and is a great player. And again, you gel very well with Chris. And this is a project which is called Two of a Mind.
That's right. Yes.
And do you want to tell us a little bit about that and how that got started? How did you kind of come up with that?
Well, I can't quite remember how I met Chris. I think we've sort of known each other for a long time, and I'm a great admirer of his. I mean, he's a completely unique musician, really, on the scene, and a unique jazz musician. He's got an amazing freedom about his playing. I mean, he's an absolutely wonderful person, and I think that just really comes through in his playing. It's sort of very exuberant and joyful, and I mean, he's a very unassuming and very humble sort of character, Chris. But there's just something about him. I mean, he's just a really special musician, and it was a complete honour when he asked if I wanted to do a joint project with him, and I absolutely jumped at the chance. And I think actually because we're so different in many ways musically, but we sort of really worked well together. So we really sort of we recorded a record together. It's a few years ago now, called Then and Now, and it also featured another amazing guitarist called Colin Oxley on a few tracks, and drummer Stu Butterfield, who's an old friend of Chris's, and also amazing bass player Jeremy Brown, who's an old friend of mine. And we sort of came together and recorded a record that was really in the spirit of the kind of two records that Paul Desmond and Jerry Mulligan made together, with that in mind. So there were pianoless quartets for those, and that was kind of really the aim behind the group. So we sometimes work with Colin on guitar, but quite often we go out as just a pianoless group, and it just gives Chris and I a lot of freedom to play together and explore, and sort of really listen and kind of really improvise. And I think that's what I've really enjoyed about that group. And we still play quite a bit together, and we stay in touch quite regularly, and have quite a strong friendship now. And I think he's a remarkable musician. I really do.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because that I think that if in the pianoless quartet, so in case people don't realise, you're talking about two horn players at the front and just bass and drums, which means the harmony role, which is traditionally played by the piano, is much more, in some ways you've got more responsibility there, but in the other ways you've also got more freedom, haven't you? So you can take it out. But I think what makes it work is that you have to have that real close connection musically, don't you? And I think that's, of course, famously Jerry Mulligan, Chet Baker, they had that synchronicity in their playing, interweaving lines. I think that's a real art form, and it's not easy to do, is it? And I think you can have great players, but maybe not have that connection.
Yeah, it's all about listening, and
right.
Chris is very much of that way as a musician. He's a real listener, and he's very creative with that. And I really use my ears to play. I'm very much an ears player, so it really works for us. Yeah, it's great.
You need to have a lot of trust in each other, I would imagine, as well. And that, yeah. Fantastic. Well, let's play a track from that. So that album was from. So this album we're going to play with the project with Chris is it's called Then and Now. Is the name of the album from 2018 on Trio Records, and it features Chris Bisco on the baritone sax and Stu Butterfield on the drums. Lovely drummer, Stu, and Jeremy Brown on the bass. And we're going to hear this track, How Deep is the Ocean? Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. That was my guest, Allison Neale, with Chris Biscoe on the baritone saxophone, and on drums and bass, Stu Butterfield and Jerry Brown. Yeah, there's some great comments there. Dave Griffith says that's some empathetic duetting right there, and yes, indeed, yeah, incredible. And Brian Way says he's just managed to buy your Melody Express album, and he's been trying to learn 317 East 30 seconds since 1978. There you go, Brian. Keep going, mate. You'll get there, and hopefully.
They really aren't easy, those Lenny Tristano.
No, crikey. Yeah, very difficult tunes, actually. You make it sound easy, Alison, but they're very difficult. Yeah, I mean, that I think that's beautiful playing, but and as Dave says, very empathetic. The two of you just interweaving lines and everything there, and absolutely wonderful example of what can be done, what is possible with improvising. And not having the piano there, that it really gives quite a different texture, doesn't it, to the music? There's a kind of lightness to it, I think.
Yes, very open.
Yeah. Is that so? Do you enjoy? I mean, you obviously enjoy it, but I mean, is that? Do you feel like you play differently when you play in that setting than if you've got the piano or the guitar there? Or are you consciously trying to do so, or is it just you're just reacting to what's around you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think when there's no chordal instrument, you have to really concentrate and really listen. Your ears have to be literally wide open, and that's the difference. There's no one. Well, obviously there's the bass, but you really need to sort of concentrate to know where you are in the sequence and to make sure that you don't.
Are you consciously trying to outline the harmony more, or you're just playing what you're hearing?
Well, a bit of both, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's very focusing, I think. Focusing.
Oh, you make it sound effortless. It's it's interesting. Yeah. Sorry, you were gonna.
It's a good exercise, and then obviously, funnily enough, playing with guitar is again quite. It's different to piano. It gives you more space actually as a player. Interestingly, for me anyway. So it's kind of a happy medium between no chordal instrument and then the piano. The piano, I think, is much more kind of driving behind a player. So it can make you play differently, actually.
That's interesting. And I guess, I mean, you've always played alto, haven't you? Am I right? I mean, I'm assuming that. I've not seen you do that. Tenor at all. And I wonder if there's anything about being in that register as well with the piano or the guitar. Is that like, do you think there's something there with that? Or is it, I mean, it's always where you've always been. So you're just used to that space, aren't you?
Yeah, sure. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just more of a concept thing than anything else for me. Anyway, my concept and how that relates to whatever instrument I'm playing. I think if you use every musical situation differently, you have. It has a bearing on how you're playing a lot of.
Sorry, we had a little glitch there again, Alison. Sorry, but I don't know if the viewers got that last bit. It might have been my end, and so. But you were saying that you treat each situation differently according to what's going on around you. And do you find that like it brings out different situations, bring out different aspects of your playing?
Very much so. Yeah, other musicians do have an influence on how you play, I think, and the communication between different players is quite a big thing, I think.
And I think this is true of all jazz, really, isn't it? Because you're creating the music in the moment, so you have to have that kind of connection with them. You're not just playing a fixed part, so you've got to have that connection, haven't you? And that can affect the outcome of the music quite severely. Yeah, for good or bad, depending on who it is. Yeah. The opposite's also true, isn't it? Yeah,
that is true. Yes. Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I think the time's actually got the better of us. So I mean, we've got another track to play, so we're going to play out on this last track. So perhaps we could mention and talk about that again. We're going to play another track from the new album. So and you picked this Jimmy Rainey tune, Motion. And is there anything you'd like to say about that? Is that no. Is that a reference to Paul Motion or nothing to do with that?
No, I think it's just a no. It's
just an old.
Just it could have been, I suppose, but no, I don't think so. No, I think it's just a name that Jimmy gave that tune. I mean, Jimmy Rainey wrote some amazing tunes and recorded a lot of them with Stan Getz. It's that from that period, and that means a lot to me. That period, the Stan Getz Roost recordings. I listened to those when I was young and marvelled at the playing. Stan's playing. I think he was in his early 20s when he recorded those, which is quite incredible.
Yeah, he was something else, wasn't he?
Yes, and I think I just wanted to record that tune because it's such an incredible head to play. It's an incredible tune to play, incredibly difficult.
Yeah. Fierce, yeah.
And a great thing to do in unison with Peter as well. I think it's very much because it was recorded. It was written by a guitarist from one of the great guitarists from jazz history. That's kind of the elements involved there. And
so, playing unison lines is really not, again, it shows the you've got to be really together, haven't you, to pull it off on this, and you really do. It's absolutely amazing.
And also this track, we literally recorded it beginning to end, no repairs. It was straight through. That's what we did.
Just one boom. Just there you go. Have it. Yeah. Amazing. Well, I mean, it's it's an incredible achievement, and as are all your albums, are absolutely stellar kind of quality. But I think this last one you've really knocked out the park there, and wish you very, very all the success with that, and hopefully we can get some gigs with that quartet as well. So presumably they'll be on your website, will they? If
yes.
If we ever when it comes around again.
So we'll have to look to the future and see what happens anyway.
Of course. So if people do want to find out more, then do check Alison's website. It's below in the description. Just keep up to date with what's coming up, and they can check. They presumably you'll have some links to the Bopfest when that comes out as well next year.
Yes, we have a Facebook page and a separate website for that.
What's the website for Bopfest?
www.bopfest.co.uk.
Oh,
so you can just
that's easy.
Really, yes.
Yeah, very good.
We've got a Facebook page, and so that's probably the easiest place to get up to date info.
Great. And again, they can get your albums for the various record labels that we've listed. So do check those out, folks. Well, it's been wonderful, Alison, catching up, and it's been really nice to see you. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing your time and your beautiful music. And I know everybody's really enjoyed it. And so we're going to finish off with this track, which is called Motion. And it's from the new album Quietly There, featuring my guest Allison Neale on the alto, the American great guitarist Peter Bernstein, and the wonderful team of Dave Green on bass, Steve Brown on the drums. So that's all, folks, for this week. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for all your lovely comments and letting us know you're there. And don't forget, please do hit the subscribe button where it is down there, I think, because that will really help. And next week I've got Mick Foster on the show. He's a great baritone player and an educator and a really swinging musician. A lot of lovely music again next week, folks. And you had a good time, then please do consider a donation. It would be very much appreciated, and everything gets shared with the guests. So we both thank you for that. And take care of yourselves. We'll leave you with this. This is Motion. Thanks again, Alison. Take care. Hope to see you soon. Good night. Good night, everyone. Take care. Cheerio.